It gives me enormous pleasure to welcome you all today to the December Rising Asia Literary Circle launch of Manish Gaekwad's third book, his second memoir, Nautch Boy. Nearly 2 years ago, he wrote The Last Courtesan of Kolkata, India, where he lived in a kotha with his mother, who was a tawaif, a Nautch girl, who lived and earned her daily bread from dancing and singing to customers who wanted entertainment in the evening. A man of many experiences now, in his 40s, in Nautch Boy, Gaekwad lends his own voice to his own perceptions of growing up in a kotha, which is a home where all the tawaifs or the entertaining women stayed, lived, and irked out an existence. Fascinating to follow how a young boy who was without a father made it to a boarding school which his mother sent him to with great alacrity and with grace to give him a future. So here's the story in his own words, the memoir, Nautch Boy. Started this rambunctious, chatty group of people getting together, but at one point I think it became bigger than what it really was. So what happened was, in the COVID years, a whole bunch of people here, Anasuya, Pal and Chotali Moitro, Anju Munshi, Harisha, decided that, okay, we'll serve the club whichever way we can, and we did. And now we have moved out, it's gotten bigger, and we are under the umbrella of the founder of the Rising Asia Foundation, which is Harisha. We just came and said, okay, you have the space, now do it. So we are doing our thing. We were just speaking, we've done 82 of these, and I must tell you, we've had Booker Prize winners online with us, we've had prize winners by the dozens, but I must say my dear friend Manish makes me so happy that he is in person with us today. For 17 months, between his first book, which was The Last Courtesan, second book but first memoir, and Nautch Boy, his second memoir, there was a gap of 17 months. And we were gestating with him for this second memoir to come out. We're going to try to do this in a very, what Manish and I both think of a machine gun sort of fire sort of way, so that we keep the conversation going. Many of you have read the books, some of you haven't. Doesn't matter. The root of it is a different life. And how this man, in his very early 40s now, going on 30, has managed to live a life which is so exciting on so many levels. So without further ado, Manish, this is for your wonderful mother, Rekha Bai, in her memory. Please light this, yes, please light this. And this is for you, no, at home. But this is for you, the connoisseur of tea, and this is tea collected from all over. Okay. Now, welcome Mona, welcome Sushruta, We are home.
Don't embarrass us. We got late.
Doesn't matter.
Driver didn't come.
Yes.
Sorry.
No problem. We'll try and see if we can get some more seats. Please, can we get some more seats? Okay. So Harish, would you say a few words and then we'll start the program.
So very warm welcome to all you book lovers and literary enthusiasts and intellectuals, scholars, readers to the Rising Asia Foundation and Rising Asia Literary Circle. We're doing this in collaboration with Ahava Readers and Writers Club, with Sushruta and Mona, who are both here. Nothing more to add except that many of you, or some of you, or rather very few of you have joined the foundation as a member. And I've sent a few emails and which have produced some results, but we hope more of you will join. And if you would like to join, before you leave, can you leave your email, your cards, so we can be in touch with you? Because joining the foundation will have its own benefits. You'll be invited to many of our programs. You'll get a free copy of the Rising Asia Journal, which is a glossy production 3 times a year. You'll get invited to our summit, which comes with coffee and lunch, and a full day's intellectual feast. So with those few words, welcome, and let's...
Okay. My mother entertained the thought of killing me a few hours before I was born. In the hierarchy of noble thoughts, I ranked second in priority. Her own life claimed the top spot, and with good reason. She had to survive before any of this, whether my story or even hers was possible. "Bacha jaane do, mujhe bachao," she cried. "Let go of the baby, save me." To her credit, she did not choose the more actionable words, "Bacha maar do," kill that damn baby. She could not have possibly said that. Was her God testing her? Let go, as in let it slip away. Jaane do, a first-time mother, but a murderess? Oh no, she was incapable of that. No gestating mother wants to be a baby killer. But what if it involves a deliver and die scenario? "Mujhe bachcha nahi chahiye," she frantically repeated. "Mujhe bachcha nahi chahiye," trying to make herself heard loud and clear to the nurses treating her. "I don't want the baby."
Thank you everyone for coming, and this was the introduction passage from Nautch Boy. I'd actually just like to start where the passage ends, where she says, "I don't want the baby." And since we're talking about a Nautch Boy, can we just open up the room with a song about the Nautch Boy? This is a song you'll probably not hear in a kotha, but this is the song that I probably first learned how to dance to, and so we should start the story from here. Thank you.
Do we have another mic? No. Should have one. Never mind. Manish, I think the biggest thing that struck me was that these are two stories which are both undergirded by a tremendous pull between mother and son. And, you can talk about D.H. Lawrence, and you can talk of Sons and Lovers, which comes to mind the moment you think of this kind of love. And what I want to ask you very pointedly is, when you began to write this book, you always told me with a laugh, "Come on, Julie, this is my mother's story. I am only a typewriter. I am what Christopher Isher would call a blank camera, right? And a blank canvas. And I'm just taking down what she is saying." When I came to this book, it was a very different kind of engagement that you had with the story. And right at the start, when I ask you this question, I want to say, I want to go back to the end of the book, which is so well made into a circle. We start with this very mama drama scenario of mother saying, "Bacha maar do, don't want the baby." And at the end, it is this boy who is there with his mother. He might not have been there. There's no guarantees for any of us to be with our parents. We might just have gone to the washroom. And really, honestly, that's what happened. He went to the washroom. But he was with his mother when she was, the last signs of life were with her. She was frothing at the mouth. And he got a chance to say goodbye to her. So when you planned the telling of the story, Manish, the story of this Nautch Boy and the story of the last courtesan, you have shown that your style actually imitates your content of your life. How would you bring a bridge to this content and style? It is a very difficult thing to do as those of us who write.
Thank you, Julie. How do you bridge content and style? Oh, that's a tough one. Let me just say that I wasn't ready to write my own autobiography, memoir. But while writing my mother's story, I found the strength to say things, to say the unsayable. As writers, we are here to say the unsayable. And most times in our life, or for a large tract of our life, we are so busy doing everything but not saying what needs to be said. And while recording her story, I realized that I was drawing strength from her to be able to put words or to even form a sentence for my own story. And and for me, usually I think like as a writer that I'm constantly crafting the perfect sentence. But when I heard her speak in a very plain and simple and fat manner, I realized that I have to do it exactly like her, as much as possible. But the style will creep in, because I long time, for maybe about 20 years, conditioned myself to think that I will become a writer one day. But it's in her telling that I found that I could say so.
So what was the catalyst? You'd written this very moving, and when you're writing about your mother who's been trafficked at the age of 10, it's not easy to come back to the subject. You would be grieving about the fact that you've already lost her, so you've written this, and it's a kind of celebration of her life. But at the same time, within 17 months, and I'm gobsmacked when I think about, and now I'm being the literature teacher, please pardon me, but I have only good things to say about Nautch Boy. Because after, you'll agree, Swati, and I think Anasuya and Anju.
A little passage I'd like to read out where he says his story.
Go ahead.
I fashioned myself some dizzyingly high heels from Pan Parag and Baba Zarda Dabbas. Tin boxes. I tied them with canvas shoelaces to my feet. Okay, sorry. If I can't be heard. I loved your writing.
I was reading again.
Yeah. I fashioned myself some dizzyingly high heels from Pan Parag and Baba Zarda Dabbas, tin boxes. I tied them with canvas shoelaces to my feet and walked like a circus performer on stilts. I sang Bijli Girane Main Hu Aayi, Kehte Hain Mujhko Hawa Hawai.
Brilliant.
I thought that I just love his writing. He's so flawless.
So you see, I mean, it's not every time that we have an audience member who is so enthused with the book that they want to share what they found enthusing. So here you are, Manish. What I want to go back to is exactly what you were saying, the crafting of the second book, the second story. Now, I would imagine, after reading the book and after, the discussion that we always have within a few of us before we choose a book, I thought, this also merited a launch. This also merited a discussion after we did this in a big way at the Bengal Club. Fantastic. So the reason I think that you got a fan in me, at least, with your writing style, because there is no overwriting and there is no self-consciousness, and it is what you see is what you get. So would you like to talk a little bit about how the craft of writing, as you were saying, came into effect? Did you think about it a lot? Did you remove a word occasionally? Or like Arundhati Roy, will you tell me, no, Julie, I did not change a single word?
So, growing up in the kotha, I initially thought that I'll grow up and become a tawaif and I'll sing and dance and I'll be fantastic at it, because that's what I saw and I thought that's the most natural progression for me to get into. Writing came from not being able to find myself in boarding school, for example. I wasn't a talkative social child, and I was mostly ostracized because I was singing and dancing on stage wearing ghagra and singing Sun Saiba Sun and Nache Mayuri. So all the kids were puzzled, the teachers were puzzled, ki, is this a boy, is this a girl, what is this creature? But my mother never taught me how to be a boy or a girl. She didn't say ladkiyon jaise mat karo or ladka ban ke dikhao, or so I don't know. So for my own safety, I took shelter in the library and then started reading, and that led to thinking that because nobody outside of the kotha appreciates what I do, I don't think I'll ever become a tawaif. When I'm dancing on stage, nobody is clapping, and I wonder why, because in the kothas, all the women are clapping. So I thought maybe if I read and pursue something in writing, then I'll be able to carve a career for myself as a writer. And so I think it's been a long process, and from a very early age I had that instinct that I want to be a writer. So I can't really tack it to what is it that I'm doing. It's been in the making for a very long time.
Manish, can I ask you a slightly slippery slope kind of question, and that is, if we are honest, very few writers can honestly say with a hand on the heart, oh no, I'm so good, but I always knew I was going to be so good, and it's not been very hard. But I think in a way writing is the most difficult profession. Acceptance is not easy sometimes, and the competition has grown to be where every mother and his son is writing a book. So how did you arrive at a point where your first book was not The Last Courtesan? So your first book, would you like to talk about that, how you managed to break some of the barriers and get into being published? That is something I think a lot of us want to know.
So I was interviewing a filmmaker in Bombay for a newspaper, and we were talking about the Pride Parade, and I said, why aren't you going to the Pride Parade? And he said, they haven't invited me as chief guest. How can I go? I said, you don't need to be a chief guest to attend a Pride Parade. And as a queer person, he was private. I mean, he's openly queer. So that kind of confused me, thinking, what is it that I have to have pride of in life that I can show off without feeling that I need to be called on stage or felicitated for being part of something like that. So I went home and wrote a blog about what is that thing that gives me the most pride. It is growing up in the environment of the kotha. So I wrote that blog, and this was about 3 a.m, and the next morning it had blown up, and everybody was talking about it, and then that led to a book deal coming. And that's how the journey of these 2 memoirs started. But much before that, I had already gone on a year-long tour across India, trying to find my own voice as a writer, and I wrote my first book, which was called Lean Days. It was out in 2018, but I wrote it in 2013. The process of getting the book to the publisher was a long and arduous process. It took about 5 years, and but in 2018, when that book was out, is when all of this blog was happening, and then kind of it leveraged my position and got me better deals.
How much of your success in this field would you say, Manish, and there are 2 or 3 very dodgy, uncomfortable issues here about South Asia, and we will have to, I think, that's what I try to do. We try to unpackage those issues. But in your opinion, would you say in a way your sexual direction or the way you see your identity, gender, do you think that was in some ways a positive for you? Did you use it? And I know that you speak forth about it with great courage. Could you tell us a little about coming to terms with that?
I don't know. I'm trying to think of when is it that I came to terms with that. I've always been comfortable just as I am. I don't know. I can't bracket it into what age this started, and I don't know.
You don't have to give us the age, but I'm just trying to think whether you're comfortable in your own skin. That's very apparent in your writing. In the book. And you're not making any excuses, which I think is fantastic. And when we had that program at ICCR, which was beamed, there were several people who stood up and applauded you and said that it is very courageous of you. But you don't think of it like that. You think of it naturally, yeah. So would you tell us something about how that works?
I mean, I've not had to fight it with anybody. I've not had to fight it with my mother. So there hasn't been a tussle as such. I've not had to be, I've not, like they say traditionally, that you have to you get on top of, get on rooftops and shout that you're gay or you're queer. I've never had the need to do that. And so I don't know if I'm a flag bearer for the community, or I don't know. I just don't understand how it works. Right. I just feel like if it's visible in my work and that's one way to express it, I'm comfortable doing it through my work. I don't feel the need to go out and announce it all the time.
Yeah, that's fair. That's a fair answer. I'm very cheesed at the way, I'm always laughing at the way that you use humor without knowing probably that you're using humor. For instance, what I love about one very important topic and the way you use it, when your mother, and you describe why she's so happy. How could somebody be so happy in a kotha? And you say, quite rightly, because she's free from all patriarchy. She's not under the thumb of anyone. So, in her own way, she is more free in the kotha than she would be under a husband, a father, a brother, a boyfriend, or boyfriends, right? So I want us to look at that and how you mold that so beautifully. The other story about your being in boarding school, and that story about you being so in love with sweets that you actually broke your jaw, and the principal came running the next morning, saw you in bed, not got up, with bloody jaws. So how those stories have become so much a part of a larger issue that you might be dealing with. For instance, the jaw story reminded me of the fact that at any moment in time, a young child would like the mother to be there, but there was no mother there, right? So that was unbelievably a happy, humorous way of putting the story. So how does this amazing talent come to you? Do you know how you think?
It's always the mother. So when she landed in the kotha and she woke up with new eyes and she realized that this is actually a much better place than home or sasural, and somebody came and served tea to her, and she thought that, oh, I don't have to make this tea for myself. So that's fantastic. So I think she immediately embraced it, and it's a form of survival where she knew it. I think it was just in her bones that this is whatever it is, I'm going to make the best of it. So, and it's passed on from mother to son, and so we try to make the best of it. And the thing with the people with the most difficult lives is that you have to live it with a certain amount of levity, because the more you process it as pain and misery, it just gets worse. So, and what is life without humor?
Well said. I will give myself a break, if I may, and just go around 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, our reading group with Harish, and then I'll throw it open to the audience, because the idea is to have the conversation with the author. So can we keep it short and machine gun fire? Thanks. Joytali.
Hello, good evening everyone, and happy December to each and every one of you. So the first thing that I thought of talking about is the importance of violence and memory in your book. And Julie was just talking about that portion of the book where you go to the boarding school. That in that book, that part called Bengal, I think, you have a sentence that violence, even if it is not physical, sorry if I misquote a little, is agonizing. And in the same sort of thread of your narrative, you say violence spawned violence. Violence muted my voice. So these are sentences which I can compare to little daggers, which sort of talk about violence not just in the main narrative but also in the subtext. And throughout this, you also say that the memory becomes a CCTV camera at one time. So violence also plays an important part in creating your memory. And I feel like talking about restorative nostalgia, quote unquote, by Svetlana Boehm, once again a theorist. And my question to you would be that if this restorative nostalgia is again born of violence, which has been so much a part of your living, thinking, writing, you're flowering as a writer, how have you managed to be so different in your life where you do not carry violence? How do you kick it off so positively? That's my question to you.
That's very simple. You follow what Gandhiji said. Don't offer your other cheek. That's it. If you keep responding to violence with violence, you only aggravate it. What else can you do? And you'll only harm yourself. And I was too pretty to die.
Oh! He was too pretty to die.
Good evening, everybody. And Manish, it's always a pleasure to have you and to talk to you and to enjoy your crackling humor. I quite like it. I enjoyed reading the book, The Nautch Boy. I enjoyed the author behind it. It's a tapestry of very fine emotions. And what is very noteworthy is that there's no fear, there is no self-pity, there is no shame, there is no guilt. There are these Urdu words which I'm going to use since it's going to be, like going with the kind of language which the book has. There's no tehzeeb, there's no taklif, there is no takalluf, which means there's no awkwardness. There is a kind of cathartic release, I find. I think it's a brave effort by a son for his mother to validate her, and basically he's telling, Ma, I look at you, I hear you, and I love you. And I think for most of us who are mothers here, it's a very overwhelming feeling, The question that I'm going to ask you is, was this book meant to be a kind of a release, a scrubbing away of the built-up residue emotions in the mind? Was it meant to kind of clean up the inner self, the conscience, the inner platform that every person has? Did you try to come out of it, of the kind of days that you've been living? This is my question to you.
Thank you, Anju. Sorry. So once you tell your story, it's no longer your story. It's a story about everybody who's reading it. Because when a reader reads a story, they are reading mostly to deal with something that they haven't, it's subconsciously that they haven't come to terms with. So I think I haven't given that much of a thought about whether it's a cathartic experience or whether it's something that I want to release. It hasn't been that depressing, I write for the fun of writing, actually, and to challenge myself and see what is it that I can learn about myself. So with this book, I was able to figure out that I'm able to tell all of that story that I probably thought I'll say when I'm 60, in the sunset of my career, when you get a chance to write. But because I told my mother's story first, it gave me the ammo to continue in the same vein and tell this story. So it wasn't anything that I consciously thought about.
Excellent. I just want to put us in a little bit of a learning mode. What Manish talked about is what Marcel Proust and a lot of the French theorists talk about, and which we are realizing every day, which is the birth of the reader comes with the death of the author, or with the death of the author comes the birth of the reader. So we are actually more empowered to say what we get from the book, not so much what the author is saying. With that, Anna Suyapal.
Good evening, everyone, and congratulations, Manish. It was such a delight to read Nautch Boy, especially after having done the last Courtesan. What touched me the most, and on which I would like to pose a question, is the unabashed, almost irreverent authenticity that you put forth while expressing your coming of age and acknowledging your sexuality. And in the process of reading, as a reader, it brought about a change in perspective and acceptance and dropping of judgment. So, very recently, if we were to go back to another book where homosexuality was addressed, we had done the Viceroy's portrait. And at a far reference, I can think of A Suitable Boy, where even Vikram Seth was playing around very covertly while trying to explain homosexuality. In contrast, you have been very honest, very authentic, and very clear and unambiguous about the way you expressed you becoming aware of your sexuality, and the reader takes the journey alongside with you. So can you elaborate your mental freedom and whether the current state of acceptance in the society, how has it impacted you while expressing yourself in this space?
Thank you. The thing with Vikram Seth and the other author you were talking about is I've probably been far more anal than them, in the sense that I've been irreverent. The thing is, when you grow up in a kotha and your mother is a tawayaf, you already have a sense of abandon and shamelessness. So it's never something I had to think about. It's never something that, I'm, putting out some brave material for the world to find out how I dealt with my sexuality and all that. It never occurred to me that this is something that I'm doing out of courage, or all of these thoughts have never crossed my mind. I'm just putting a story as authentically as possible about my own life, because I've seen her do that. So ab kya jhagda hai? It's one life, and what is there to be so covert about?
Thank you. We have Shalini, and we have Swati, Harish, and then Sulaka. And we open it up, and then Mona would like to say a few words, all of you. Sorry for the inconvenience, guys.
Here, Julie.
Can I say something?
Yes, in 2 seconds.
Yeah, in 2
Ma'am, as
seconds.
soon as they finish.
Very good evening to everybody. I think there's already so much being said, but I have not read the first book, to be very honest, and I'm going to take the book now and read it. But I feel that there is so much that I read through the second book, and the deep bond that, which has most touched me. In many places, though, having not read the first book, I felt that I get a glimpse into it, and I just, from the references, from the very subtle insinuations there, and I feel that in so many ways that I'm just reading something which that was created, and that's you. And that impact and that bond is something, which has touched me immensely. And of course, yes, the very candid way, the very unassuming way, and there are no analysis, there is nothing, it's just a story put out. And I think the reader imbibes that, because you have no complications, and thereby now not more to analyze, think. It's just out there for you to read and not even accept it. It's just right there with no questions asked. So that is what is, and as far as your creating a sentence was a beautiful point that Julie put out. And I think it's marvelous because it's something so cinematographic, the way you have processed everything. You get the feel, you get the language. It's almost like you're watching a screen unfold, right, and you're watching a movie.
And very quickly, I'm loud enough, guys. Very quickly, I congratulate you for bringing that to the table. I had forgotten that he is actually also a film script writer.
Yes, he is. Yeah.
So it's an imagistic writer. Not easy to find. Who doesn't overdo the description. But with minimal understatement, he's able to convey the scenes. Please pass.
All right.
Yeah.
Sorry, I think.
No, that's okay.
He has to answer
Swati,
something.
he wants to say something.
Yeah.
I think that's also because, Kotha is also like a film set where you are in the evening shooting a song sequence. For a child, it's like that, but the budget is not from a Bhansali film, it's from Doordarshan. So I guess it comes from that. I mean, it's just, it's just that.
Okay. Harish and then Swati.
So I'm not sure if I have a question, but I just want to attempt to locate you as scholars would. So, your book,
Bhawanipur House.
Your book is obviously, you're a HarperCollins author, and as you know, Julie and I were in Singapore many years ago when Bob Dylan came down. This is how they introduced him. The lights went down, and they said, Columbia artist Bob Dylan. That's it. Not Bob Dylan. So Columbia took the thing. It was Columbia and then Bob Dylan. So HarperCollins author Manish. Now, Manish, obviously, there isn't a lot of top-notch gay literature in this country. There is some. There's Vikram Seth, whose books aren't about being gay. His books are beyond that. They're part of general lit. They're literary. So I think in today's world, it's very much Manish, who's right up there as a HarperCollins person, literary artist, who's leading the flag for top-notch gay lit. But to my mind, he's bigger than that, because while at the same time he's taking his flag overseas, he's become a part and parcel of the global gay movement. So he's doing that. But at the same time, his story is really also resonating with the growing up novel. This book obviously is a growing up book. And so it must take its place alongside the greats, J.D. Salinger, all the growing up stories, and to a great extent, not necessarily gay stories, but it then becomes a broader growing up story And I just wanted him to give me his take on all of these things, couple of things.
Now, before
And the reason I say that is because he's a great iconoclast with very little respect for authority.
I must intervene to say that Manish is seen not just as a Gaelic person or Gaelic person who takes it out, but I see this sort of writer as a very large representative of the marginalized writer with a unique voice, a voice you will not find in J.D. Salinger or in Thomas Hardy or in Charles Dickens.
You know, I don't know if it's queer lit. I just want it to be lit. That's all. I mean, lit in any corner that, can sense the queer gaze in coming of age stories.
Thank you. Manish, I loved your book. I couldn't put it down literally. I think I finished it in 2 days. And literally, I was almost reading it all the time. And, I remember when you started writing about your school, Daffodils. I mean, you went to Daffodils. And your mother chose it over St. Paul's because she thought that this was a better school. It had girls in a charming, nice, cozy atmosphere where, her son would, do it. Yeah, Nazuk. A Nazuk boy, huh? So I'm coming to the Nazuk bit. I mean, I was quite so coming from that, and then when I also remember that when she was asked about your name, and she said mumbled something, so it became Gaekwad. I mean, yeah. So and then it really touched me. When you wrote about that, because from having no name to having a name which, in school, you'd consider yourself somebody, because of that surname, which probably you knew nothing much about. And so your identity, I think, started kind of molding itself from then when you became a Gaekwad and, sort of from there. And lovely descriptions about your schoolmates and how they treated you, and how it was Suzanne who said that the boys, you shouldn't be doing this on stage, The boys don't do this. Suzanne, your English teacher, told you. Yeah, boys don't dance, she told you. So all that I was thinking are molding what they have been asking you. They were molding your identity. They were molding the way you looked at yourself. And probably I felt that you probably led such a double life because you couldn't tell them about your kotha days. You couldn't tell them anything. So it must have been some sort of your school days must have been a bit of sometimes torture, that you couldn't tell them about your home, your family, your, while they could.
So the censorship that came that you're talking about is what I think constantly tussle every day. Right?
You ask your mother, I mean, you couldn't tell your mother that these are your feelings, these are your desires, because she thought you were a Nazuk boy. And a Nazuk boy wouldn't, you felt that a Nazuk boy, if she's already made me into one, how can I be anything else? How can I be anything more? So you became that little Nazuk boy. And so I just wanted to know how you led those two. How did you go between those two worlds? I mean, I have been absolutely thinking that I'm not calling this Gaelic, I'm calling it nothing. I'm calling it a cry from your heart, And I have read it as such. And I have never considered that this is gay literature or any kind of literature. But a lovely, lovely,
You got your question.
Yeah.
Thank you. What was your question? Yeah, I know. She's saying, how did I balance being a Kadak in school and Nazuk at home? Oh dear. Yes, so because I could not tell anybody that I come from the kotha, and because like I said, that the kotha is like a film set. So I already lived in a fictional world of imagination where women are beautiful and they're singing and dancing and there's color and there's music. So that sense of living in that bubble, this fictional world that I had, I carried it. And in school, the initial years, nobody really asked. The children don't ask you about where you come from. They don't care. But it's only when you grow a little older that you have to explain where you've come from. But by that time, I had read enough fictional stories to make up something. But but the thing is, if they ask me what does your mother do, I used to say she dances on stage. She used to go to police functions and she used to dance on stage, and that's not a lie. So they didn't ask anything beyond, and that was quite easy actually to deal with. So I didn't have to lie, and I was telling the truth, but nobody was interrogating me.
I still remember the 5 rupee crackling notes she brought back after that. Yes, please, Vibha, if I can ask you to say a quick word and then pass it on, because I think on this row you have a lot of people. Make it quick and short.
So, Manish, I haven't read the book, but from what I can gather from the conversations, it's a very, very happy and, positive book, inspiring to say the least. Entertaining. But given your life, you must have had some misgivings, regrets, which you haven't put out there. I mean, do you feel that the real you was a little sad, which you haven't talked about? I don't know if there is sadness in the book.
The real me is definitely not sad. Do I look sad? I mean, if I was sad, I would write an existential novel. That's not my scene. I've read enough to know that I want to live and be happy about my life.
He's a realist, Vibha, so he takes it in his stride. Yeah, read the book.
Congratulations, Manish. Your 2 memoirs were really powerful, unfiltered, and deeply human. Your Nautch Boy confronts you. It just doesn't tell a story, but it confronts each one of us. So it's a remarkable piece of art. Congratulations once again.
So, Lavina?
Hi. It's really wonderful. I've just gone through the thing. I just had one question, which, see, if you see films, many films, you will see the boy or especially the boys, when they see their mothers in such acts, they become revengeful on the man sometimes. Did you ever have such feelings?
My feelings were more on the Yash Chopra film instead of the Subhash Ghai film. So we didn't want that unnecessary melodrama. We wanted to have a beautiful scene in the Swiss Alps. So that's how I thought life was. And what is the point of being vengeful about your own mother?
Not your mother, the man, the circumstances, the surroundings. And the man got 30,000 rupees and the exchange. I mean, it is, sometimes, there are also wars and everything. The children, the violence. About Khansan, about Kothari or one of those guys. I don't know, I haven't read the book, so I've read, so I can.
Am I resentful of them?
Yes.
No, I'm not. I have the heart of a Tawayaf. It's only full of love. It loves and forgives.
Good evening, everyone. Mr. Manish Gaekwad, congratulations. It is such a beautiful, absolutely raw. While reading it, I don't know, I felt my hair stand on end. Sometimes I felt tears welling up. But it is absolutely unabashed, authentic. It couldn't be more, well, human, I think somebody said. It is beautiful. And you know what I kept thinking, being a literature student, I just thought, what Shaw has termed middle class morality is just not there. It is just a one-on-one, or not even a one to another person, maybe a one to his own self, his own spirit, his own soul. I mean, speaking and showing us all, as somebody put it so cinematographically. It is so beautiful. And another thing I really appreciated, your mom, I mean, she had such a beautiful soul, so loving when she had money. I mean, we talk about Mother Teresa. She was like Mother Teresa to her own family, her own community. She had no bitterness whatsoever. She gave back to those who had actually sold her off. So hats off. Hats off to your mom. Hats off to you to bring all this. Now here a little bit of trivia. Something that really made me relate to the book. I have stayed in Courtesan for almost 10 years, and I have taught, not at Daffodils, but I've taught at Himali boarding school. So I just could relate, and I was thinking, we teachers, we just think, oh, you haven't done your homework. We just look at things from such a teacher angle. But what goes on in the life of different students, I mean, do we even... I don't know, sometimes we can't even imagine. And another point, you talked about Aptech, Camac Street, 1 by 1 Middleton Road to be precise. So I was part of the Aptech family. I was centre head of our North Calcutta Centre. And at the Camac Street Centre, we would go quite regularly for meetings and this and that. So I really could relate to you, without knowing you, to the author, to Manish Gaekwad, these two, Courtesan and Aptech. Thank you so much. Thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Since Julie said you are a scriptwriter, could we think of this book, or you think of this book made into a OTT thing, or a book, or a film? Now that we have something called Gangubai Kathiawadi, which is a very great film. So. Yeah, Raj Kahini in Bengali.
Why don't we take one more question and we take them together?
That's a totally different.
Yeah.
That's a totally different.
Yeah, go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. From the very beginning, I loved the book, the passage that ma'am read out, right at the beginning. So it was kind of a shock. So I wanted to find out the person at one end of the umbilical cord, your mother, because I had not read about the last courtesan. And of course, I wanted to know about you, the son, at the other end. And it just gripped me right at the very start. And from there onwards, it was kind of a journey. I wanted to be on that trajectory and find out that is this son surviving? And if he's surviving, then how is he taking his life forward? So with that intention, I began. And obviously, it was a very, very interesting read. Various different kinds of images, very unusual images. The weaponized sarota, the ghagra of Gullo. So then you have the white noise referring to the mother's voice, various kinds of such things. They kept on they hooked me to the read, to the book. But then what struck me the most was the way the author has disabused the stereotypical understanding of a particular profession. He has totally changed it. As you've mentioned, it's not just the rose water and the chandeliers that we can expect. The idea that we have of a kotha or the tawaif, because that's what we gather from the popular movies as well as the brilliant series that we come across. But that the real is far removed from that. So that was one more impetus that kept me moving further. And there were various other lines or sections which stood out. One of them was that the kotha is the best place to write, to create art. So that was totally unexpected. And I think somebody, while we were discussing, already pointed out that it was a discussion of contraries. The sense of the difference is right there in the protagonist. Right from childhood, you've mentioned that you've been an aberrant one. and how you've been singled out. And that's like totally there, not only as far as the presentation of the story, the protagonist, but it's running all through. And even towards the end, there's a particular line which I would like to read out about the role reversal. Where you've said, in role reversal, I was the child discovering ugly truths about my careless mother. And then this role reversal, I believe, reaches its pinnacle at the end, when you actually become the mother, and the mother becomes the petulant child till she blossoms in your veranda as a night flower. So that was my feel, but then I do have a question. I'm sorry about that. There's a particular line you say, we tell stories in a way that pale facts for fantasy. So that reminded me of a quote by W.H. Auden, where he says, every autobiography is concerned with two characters, a Don Quixote, the ego, and a Sancho Panza, the self. So my question is, how much would you like to relate to this particular kind of this perspective? Did you face the duality, the tension of projecting a persona, kind of an idealized version, and the real mundane, unembellished self, which is almost, who is a critique of the events? And if you did, then how did you strike a balance or create an equilibrium between the two persona? Or was it that you had to sacrifice one at the altar of another? Also, if you could tell us about some Don Quixotic, those idealized dynamics that could be embedded in the narrative. Thank you so much, and I loved reading it.
You want to say something?
I just want to say that when you have Don Quixote and you have Sancho Panza, it could actually be that you let the reader decide who is who, or can you even separate the two? Because it's the one which is the two coins, double face, as I think W.B.E. Du Bois, the African-American writer, says, right? Okay, so I'll have you.
So I'll answer your question first. Sorry. I have a bad throat. This one should be made into a film, and there have been offers about it. But I would like a woman to adapt it, because for most that we have seen, the Tawaif culture is through the male gaze. It's either Kamal Amrohi doing Pakiza, and it's through his eyes, or it's Umrao Jan by Muzaffar Ali, it's through his eyes, or it's Bhansali's I don't know what world is that. So
Rima Karki would be better. In today's scenario, Rima Karki would be better.
Yes, you're quite right there. I was actually going to say I would like Zoya Akhtar to make this film.
Yeah, both of them. Salam Bombay you have mentioned also. Meera Nayak.
Yes. Sorry, and she's answered your question. So I mean, do you want me to add something to it? The question was, how do I keep the two you leave it to the reader. Really, you just leave it to the reader, and you cannot do that distinction for yourself. Then you'll start creating something which is false.
Then it's self-consciousness coming into the writer.
Yeah. So to avoid a false narrative, you just leave it to the reader, and you don't analyze your own work like that.
Thank you. Maybe ask Mona Sengupta to have the mic. Harry, will you pass it on? Come, Mona, come in front. It's such a pleasure. I'm sorry, it's all packed out. Oh God, please don't embarrass me.
Sorry, I have a very bad throat. I got the book just 48 hours ago. So this afternoon, I was going through all the luminaries who've complimented Manish's work and his guts, basically. I mean, I think to be a writer, you need tremendous amount of restraint on one hand, I would say. I'm not a writer, but as a student of literature, And on the other, I think you need to be more than daring, and you need to believe in yourself. And I think you also need to believe in your readers and in your plausible readers. So I just like to, as a person who brings authors and book lovers on the same platform, Julie Dee being one of our most favorite mentors at Ahava and in the city, and I don't know where else across the globe. I'd like to congratulate Manish, not because of what he went through and his documentation and his guts, his fearlessness, but I think at heart he's a wonderful man. And I think to be a writer, that's so important, to have that goodness in you and to have that essence of innocence in you, and that doesn't make you naive. It makes you sharp, it makes you sensitive, it makes you perceptive. And I think as I'm going to turn the pages of this book next week, I hope I'm not wrong as to what I said. And it's so inspiring because a lot of aspiring writers come to us and say, do you think any publisher will take our work? And I think he's such an example. He had no backing, right? He had no godfather, godmother, anybody. Sheer talent, hard work, confidence, and he dreamt. He's a dreamer. So he's going to be an inspiration for the new generation of writers, ladies and gentlemen. And I only have to thank Julie Dee and Harishta for bringing Manish to Kolkata and showing us that yes, there is hope for the written word, and AI will not defeat that. So congratulations, Manish.
Well said. Well said. Barnali, coming to you in a minute. Is Swarupa there? Professor Swarupa? Okay. Let's do a rapid one. Come. Barnali, come.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you, ma'am, for inviting me, and thank you, Manish, for writing so honestly. As a writer, I have only one question to you. It's a rather scathing question. Often, we as writers are not very honest, not very open. We write something, perhaps more to impress rather than to what is really the fact. This also has to do with memory and perception, of course. But often when we are writing about our own, background or our stories, we choose to select. We write things which will work for maybe a certain kind of narrative or for a certain kind of reader, rather than what we actually felt about it. Did this kind of dichotomy come to you? Was it being totally honest, or did you choose facts and emphasize some while downplaying some?
Let's answer this.
Thank you. Initially, when we start out as writers, of course, we want to impress everybody with what we can do. Then we meet our mother, and she tells us, what are you doing? Just be honest. And it's that simple. And when I was telling her story, I realized that she's so honest. What is it that I'm holding back? So there is no need to filter, there is no need to layer it with something artificial. Just say it as simply as possible.
Gentlemen here, please introduce yourself.
Yeah, most welcome.
My name is Priyank Kaul. अच्छा, किताब से बाहर का एक सवाल पूछूंगा आपसे. पूछ सकता हूँ? आप बिल्कुल क्यूटेस्ट बॉय रहे हो बचपन से, तो बोर्डिंग स्कूल में आपकी रैगिंग होती थी क्या? किस नाम से आपको बोला जाता था? शिट कुछ मेंशन है किताब में उसका?
Who's the next?
One of the things I wanted to ask you about the book is it's not so much about the book as about music. When it is a very pertinent thing, I think, that your book is full of music, and Thumri's light classical music, dance music, the sound of ghungroos, and also the Bollywood's, Hindi film music. We didn't call it Bollywood music as such then. So when you hear the music now, what comes back to you? What do you feel? And how does music and the memory of music infuse your feelings now about the book?
Thank you. I think for me, the act of walking is the act of dancing. So it's just something that's in my bones. And music has, I think my mother was going to the theater and watching movies when she was pregnant with me. So I think it was a very early process of understanding music, even before I was born. So it was playing in the placenta, and I was probably kicking my way out of it, saying, I want to be part of this. So yeah, I am a disco dancer inside the womb. So that's where it starts. So I think, and even when I was starting to think of myself as a writer, unconsciously, I did want all of my words to dance on the page. And if it's not singing, it's not writing.
Do we have any more questions on this side? Come. Come, Rima. Delighted. This is Rima. Between Paris and Kolkata.
Yes, I have a very Parisian English Indian question. Oscar Wilde, we all know who he is, and he had that marvelous relationship with Bosie, who was Lord Alfred Douglas. Okay, and his father, being from an aristocratic background, the Marquis of Queensberry, said, you can't have... Sorry, can you hear me now? Yes. Okay, good. So we're talking about homosexuality relationships. So I wanted to know, what were your thoughts on that? Did you ever have such a love affair? You don't have to disclose the names, but did you find someone that you had a relationship with, and then you had certain social, barriers, which didn't allow you to take that step further, and something else happened along the way?
Can you guys still there?
Huh? Can you hear me? Yeah.
That's really French. Pushing it hard.
You don't live if you don't love. I've fallen in love, and there's been heartbreaks. I've gone through the same beats that you've probably gone through. Every human heart goes through the same beats. We all have the same emotions. It's not about being queer or being heterosexual. Like she's saying, love is love.
Okay.
That's a pithy answer, I think. Yes? Any others? Lovely. Shall we just pass on? Thank you, Rima.
I haven't read the book. My name is Shajid. I haven't read the book. But I have just one question, because I have I've taught children of red light area in Kolkata for 6 years in an informal school. How difficult was it to tell the world? I haven't read any other books about your mother. How difficult? I mean, when you started wanting to write, was it really difficult for you to tell the world? Was there an expression problem?
It wasn't difficult at all, because my mother wanted to tell her story. She was an unlettered woman. She didn't have the means, she didn't have the voice, and she didn't realize that at some point in her life, her son would come around and ask her once again, do you want to tell your story? And so that's how the dam was broken, and we got that memoir. So it wasn't, of course, there are periods in her life when she's narrating and when I'm recording her, there are passages that make us emotional also, and I have to stop and be with her in that moment, in the sense that she is relating a horrid incident about her life, and she's crying, and I'm crying along with her. We are weeping, but we are also smiling through it. Yes, so if we are smiling through it and we are making it light, then we overcome that difficulty in being able to tell others.
I think Devi's movie. Yes. Okay, listen up, guys. This is for everyone who is interested in the idea of espace, space. And I've never asked this question to Manish, but we have a very big name of a photographer sitting in the corner there, and he's going to be launching his book in a few days. Alexandra, would you put your hand up? Thank you. There. So Alexandra is true to Bengal. He's married to Rima, but I think it's fascinating to see how he conceptualizes and curates Kolkata. So he leaves the house early in the morning when there's no shusha and goes and takes his pictures. I want to ask Manish, this is a beautiful part, Bow Barracks, where I used to go every Saturday, and to Teriti Bazaar and that whole setup, the Kali Bari. Manish, what do you remember of the space where the last courtesan lived?
That it was very small when I revisited it again after about 17 or 20 years. I was amazed that it looked so tiny, and I couldn't believe that I had spent the formative years of my life in that house with my mother. It's often said that when you revisit a place that you've lived in, it shrinks. So I got the sense of that this had not only shrunk in time, it had shrunk in my memory, and it had become a dollhouse, and I had outgrown that space. So I'm not very nostalgically attached to it. So I've moved on. I remember going to the kotha and standing there, and my feet started shaking a little bit, probably wanting to dance. And then I realized that it's time to say goodbye and move on.
But is there home for you?
No, definitely no. Home is where you make home of wherever you go.
Home is where your heart is. So what do you consider your home?
The world.
Good answer. Excellent. So where is home for you was the question that Swati fired here. I will just remind you of one great writer, theorist, Gaston Bachelard, another Frenchman, who talks about how a place is no more your space. When you've left it, it belongs to everybody. So there was a fire there, right? So once it burnt to the ground and it was just rubble, it was heterotopia. It was a space which belonged to nobody. Any more questions? You're very welcome. Anuchats, anything about history? No? So maybe we should call it a day. We are really on time, within the hour. Manish, thanks very much for a wonderful, wonderful hour. And I'm sure you can get caught up with him once he moved out of this corralled space. Thank you everyone who's made the effort. And the books are selling. Mona and Sushruta, our collaborators, our darling friends, our partners, thank you very much.
The books are selling here.
The books are selling here, I'm reminded.
The books are sold out.
Oh, books are sold out. Anyway, that's good news. Thank you again.
Thank you.
We'll let you know about the next one in January. It'll be late January. Thank you.
Thank you. Lovely.